Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this special City Council meeting to order. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our statement of values? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we gather, we humbly seek blessings upon this meeting. May we act with strength, courage, and will to perform our obligations and duties to our people with justice to all. Let us seek wisdom so that we may act in the best interest of our people, our neighbors, and our country. All this we ask so that we may serve our community with fairness and respect, putting their needs before all.
Thank you. Please be seated. City Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Watanabe. Here. Councilmember Shahal.
Present.
Councilmember Hardy.
Present.
Vice Mayor Park.
Here.
Councilmember Jane.
Here.
Councilmember Becker.
Here.
Mayor Gilmore.
Here.
Thank you. I'll read the Statement of Behavioral Standards. The City of Santa Clara has adopted a code of ethics and values and behavioral standards for public meetings to promote and maintain the highest levels of conduct. This includes mutual respect, robust discussion, and allowing city business to be done in an efficient and consistent manner. Please note that as the presiding officer, the mayor's direction in matters of process and decorum should be followed, and that use of the gavel indicates all conversations must conclude and everyone in attendance should come to order and attention. Welcome and thank you for your participation.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. For today's meeting, the City Council is back in person and is conducting its meeting in a hybrid manner. The public is welcome to attend in person, and the city continues to use a Zoom feature to allow participation from the safety of your home or office. Members of the public can still join via the link and/or call into the Zoom meeting phone number shown on the screen now. If you'd like to speak on an agenda item or during public presentations, please raise your hand on the Zoom application or press *9 on your phone. That's *9. Please only raise your hand while the item you're seeking to speak on is presented. Staff will enter your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number, and I will call on you to speak. As a friendly reminder, members of the public have 2 minutes to speak on an agenda item and 3 minutes on public presentation. Those are topics reserved that are not on the agenda. Prior to each agenda item, staff will lower your hand to ensure that members of the public are seeking to speak on the appropriate agenda item. So we'll now move on to the council agenda. So tonight we have 3 items of business, 3 commissions to fill. And with each commission, we are going to ask the applicants to give us a 3-minute opening statement, and then we'll ask a series of questions that I believe they've been delivered ahead of time, so they have those questions. And then a 1-minute closing statement. We will make our decision at the end of each commission. We're not going. We'll do like we start with parks, and then we'll vote on parks, and then move on from there. So our first interview is
Mayor
item.
Gilmore?
Yes.
I apologize. I had put my a request to speak. May I speak before we start?
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I would just like to state for the Assistant City Clerk, so that you know that I am actually going to abstain from this particular commission appointment.
I just want to say I haven't even announced it yet, so it's.
Oh, okay.
It's item 1A. Is that the one
Yes,
you want to
it's
speak
item
on?
1A,
Interviews
yes.
and action to appoint 1 applicant to the Parks and Recreation Commission to serve 1 full term ending June 30th, 2027. Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So yes, going back to my statement, Assistant City Clerk, I am going to abstain from this particular item, item 1A. My decision has nothing to do with any of the applicants, but it has everything to do with how the position became vacant as a result of members of this council that removed the previous Parks and Rec Commissioner, Burt Field, the egregious way in which it was done for no cause, which opened up this position. So as a result, I am going to abstain from this particular item. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm with you in spirit, but I will be participating on this. I agree it was not the right thing to do. All right, so we're going to start with our Parks and Recreation Commissioners. City
Madam
Clerk?
Mayor?
Yes.
May I just note for the record, so you will interview 3 applicants, and as you already noted, that each will have 3 minutes for opening, followed by your questions with a 1-minute closing. And for this particular position, it is for a full term ending June 30th, 2027. So
Thank
with
you.
that, your first applicant is Peter, and he is on Zoom.
Okay, Peter, when you're ready. I can't see City Clerk because I don't have my other computer with me, so let me know. Peter?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can. Thank you. Welcome, Peter.
Okay. So should I start now?
One second, is that noise from your background or from somewhere else?
I'm on a couple Zoom meetings. Let's just stop.
Yeah, just-
I'm going to try to use just the primary on my computer instead of on the cell phones.
Yeah, that might be helpful for us to hear you clearly.
Right. So I just stopped one, and I think I just stopped the other one. Is that better?
Yeah, it's a little echoey, but,
I'm still getting one more.
okay.
I was afraid of not being able to connect, so I wasn't sure.
We hear you. We just hear others.
So is that better now?
Oh, much better. Thank you. Go
Okay.
ahead, Peter, when you're ready with your 3-minute opening, and then we have some questions for you.
All right. I think I'm still getting it on one of them here. Maybe turned off the cell phone. All right. I started with computers back in high school, and I took a test and I passed it well, and I got into an NSF computer class at University of Penn, which was very good in computers. And I hung around the university graduate students and learned a lot of low-level programming for doing networking and computers. And then I went to university, and I specialized in electrical engineering and biomedical engineering. And I've been active in sports and trying to keep up with my medical engineering ever since 1980 or so. I live in Santa Clara. I swim at the one of the pools pretty much daily, and I go to the parks whenever there's something going on, like a concert and things like that. So I am pretty active in understanding the financial markets, and I am also interested in things like quantum physics and high-level math that's involved in it. So I'm kind of a science guy, but it looked interesting to partake in the city here. So I thought I'd try, see what happens. How's that sound?
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, so we have a series of questions. Hopefully you received them ahead of time. We're going to start with Councilmember Becker, who's going to ask our first question.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for applying. So the first question I have for you is, have you attended or helped out at any of the citywide events that were held before shelter-in-place orders? Which one, and what did you do?
We went to most of the park events. I didn't. I wasn't actively doing anything, though I considered trying to be active in one of the maybe political things, but I never got around to it. So I really haven't been active in the park events. Only passive.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hardy.
Thank you for applying. What parks and rec programs have you participated in? You mentioned about swimming, and in what capacity? What program would you like to expand?
I think because I only partake in the park events like every few months when they have something major, but I swim daily. I think the swimming is the more interesting one.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jane?
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Do you have any suggestions for how to increase the number of community gardens in the city?
Yeah, I'm working on a garden in my backyard right now, and I'm finding drip irrigation with smart Wi-Fi controllers to be quite good. They can adapt to weather automatically, and the drip controllers, I think, are more efficient than your widespread controllers.
Thank you.
Okay, Peter, this is your, okay. Do you believe Santa Clara needs more parks and open space? And overall, how well do you think Santa Clara does in implementing parks?
Well, I've used the open spaces quite a lot. We were climbing in a lot of the hills, and I enjoyed it a lot. But I'm afraid I'm expecting economic conditions to be rather tight in the near future. And so I doubt this is a good time to expand. It's probably better to wait, keep the powder dry, and expand later when financial conditions are better.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Chahal?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for applying, Peter. Do you have any comments about the status of the International Swim Center and our pools in general?
I think it'd be nice to catch up on the repairs and take advantage of the huge capital investment that we've made in building the pools.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. So now it's time for your up to 1 minute closing statement. Anything you may have left out that you'd like to tell us about, or anything you've said before you want to emphasize?
Is it possible to do that after the other two candidates and I got a better understanding of the process here?
No, thank you. No, sorry. I'm sorry you had to go first, but we have to do it
All
this
right.
way. So that's our practice, so.
I've been trying to find something to do that was community oriented, and I looked into Red Cross, and because of my medical engineering, I was hoping that I could help in some medical situations, but unfortunately, they don't recognize biomedical engineering as a medical thing. So I was blocked on doing anything there. So I'm also considering trying to start at the senior center, kind of like a diabetes anonymous, where people can get together and contribute to telling other people what's been working for them for diabetes. We have a lot of seniors that are in bad shape on diabetes. Maybe I could help there.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for applying. If you just hang in with us for a while, we're going to be making a decision after the last candidate is interviewed. And we have 3 of them, so thank you very much for your answers and for taking the time to apply as well.
Okay.
Great, thank you, Peter. All right. City Clerk?
Your next candidate is Vikas Gupta.
Who happens to be here in the audience. Welcome. Welcome, sir. You heard the drill. 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes. Thank you for joining us and for applying.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here tonight. As you know, my name is Vikas Gupta. I've been a resident of Santa Clara for the last 24 years, prior to which I used to be in New Jersey and Boston, prior to moving from India. So most recently, I'm a software engineer, and most recently I was VP of Software Engineering at Viman, computer vision, robotics, and AI startup. I'm a problem solver. I believe I can come up with creative problem-solving solutions and employ my skills in solving problems, not just in software engineering, but life in general. And I even have a few patented solutions. I enjoy working with people. I've led large teams of individuals across continents. And many of those team members have continued on to be my really close friends. I've also done volunteer work, and I have close ties to people who live in our community, and I highly regard the work that they put in for our community. I volunteer, seems like almost all my time these days, at the Santa Clara Swim Club. There was a question earlier about whether I have a conflict of interest. I do not hold any position at this time. I want to mention that I believe that my decisions, the decisions that we make must be based in data and analysis, that once they are implemented, that there needs to be an active feedback loop, such as through surveys, et cetera, so that we can measure outcomes, and then we can see what went right and how our decisions were implemented and how we do better. Now, more generally, I believe we have three basic necessities: shelter, health, and education. I worked in the shelter space through my work with Catalyze SV, where I was a founding board member. And then when I say health, health obviously includes food, water, exercise, and social connections. Those are also very important. So having contributed towards the problem of shelter in our community and also, hopefully made some impact there, I would like to help with improving the health of our community, the quality of life aspect, and I view the parks, pools, recreation activities, etc., as contributing towards that. And so I thank you for your attention today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
We happen to have 5 of them for you, so when you're ready, Vice Mayor Park.
Just curious, is
She mentioned if you were,
but she's going to just, I don't know if she's just going to abstain on voting or if she's just going to completely not be.
she mentioned in the beginning that she would not be participating, so
At all,
please
okay.
go.
Understood.
Ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta.
Thank you.
Have you attended or helped out any of the citywide events that were held before shelter-in-place orders? Which one and what did you do?
So I've lived in the city, as I mentioned, for a long, long time, and I've attended over several years, along with my family, various events such as the July 4th celebration, Arbor Day, the egg hunt in the park, the wine and the Arts and Wine Festival, and so forth, concerts. I cannot say that I've helped in any specific way other than attending. But I do feel confident that I can help with this particular position. I can mention one event which wasn't a citywide event, but something that I helped organize. It was a placemaking event at the Pavilion in Central Park, where I applied for a city grant to fund part of the cost of that event. This was for Catalyze SV. And we did an event called Envisioning Great Places, where we invited members of the public to share their experiences with places that they really liked elsewhere in the country or overseas. So I'm fairly familiar with organizing events with the parks system that we have, and so I feel I can do a good job with this.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Becker?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for applying.
Thank you.
So my question for you is, what parks and recreation programs have you participated in, and what capacity? What program would you like to expand?
Thank you for your question. So unfortunately, I'm not much of a person for the kind of programs that the Parks and Recreation offers, except for swimming. I am much of a hiker and runner, and I believe that we don't have those kind of programs. And in fact, one of my suggestions would be to see if we can have running tracks around some of our parks. I have an example of there's a park in North San Jose called Tonson Park, which has a fantastic running track around the park and work benches. Anyway, I digress. Now, in terms of expanding programs or the current programs, what I would say is what matters is what the community wants, not what I want. And so again, going back to what I was saying earlier, it would be great if there could be an annual survey sent out to our residents, partners, other community organizations that solicits input from them about the programs that we currently have, ideas for other programs, feedback on how those are happening, and then use those and also collect certain metrics and year over year see how we're doing with these programs so that there can be a closed loop and improvements done. It's great what we do right now, but I do feel like more can be done. But again, it's the community that needs to have that input. In terms of some other things that I would say, like going back to what I was saying about having a running track, another thought that I have is about, and this might be a little far-fetched, please cut me off if I'm...
I was just going to say you can, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so very quickly, so in San Jose and Campbell, there's Los Gatos Creek Trail that connects multiple parks that they have, but we don't have something like that. And I have this far-fetched idea that the Saratoga Creek can have a trail alongside that can connect the Central Park and the park next to my home. What is it called? Maywood, thank you. Yeah. Maywood Park to the San Tomas Aquino Trail. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hardy.
Yes, thank you for applying. Do you have any suggestions for how to increase the number of community gardens in the city?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think one answer to that question is, in fact, what Catalyze SV started with, which was the agrihood. So the idea being the community garden is part of the living space that is being developed. So that's one way to do that. And in fact, I believe the next community garden that's coming up in the city is of such nature, down on Kiefer and Lawrence. The other can be to collaborate with large companies that are in the city and see if they would be willing to convert part of their parking spaces into community gardens that can certainly serve their employees, but maybe there's some kind of partnership with the city where some residents either portions of that community garden or for portions of the year can enjoy that space. Now, having said that, I feel there's a component of this which is educating our children to enjoy growing food, knowing how to grow food, enjoying homegrown food, and providing them the seeds and tools, etc. And this can be done right in our backyards. It can be done in our schools. So our schools can have community gardens where maybe one meal in the entire school year is entirely sourced from that community garden, so that there's a goal and a motivation to do that. So certainly there's a lot of ideas on how to do this. Again, goes back to maybe what the community wants.
Thank you. Councilmember Jane.
Thank you, Vikas. Do you believe Santa Clara needs more parks and open space? And overall, how well do you think Santa Clara is doing in implementing parks?
Another good question. So I can't say that I've studied this subject. And so I guess it goes to identifying what kind of per capita park space that Santa Clara has. How does that compare with the average for cities? How does that compare with best of class cities? And then the other metric is the distance to the park for our households. How long do they have to go, or walk, or ride a bike, or travel by car to a park? The third metric is how trafficked a park is to decide on whether we need more parks or not. And in that case, why is a certain park more trafficked than another, or why is some park being underutilized? So again, I can't quite say I have an answer for you, a direct answer, but these are things I would look at to identify if there is a need for additional parks. Again, I will go back to my earlier point, which is I can certainly feel that our parks need to be connected through walking trails and bike paths. So that's something that certainly would help. But certainly, in my opinion, more than just adding another park.
Thank you. And the last question we have is, do you have any comments about the status of the International Swim Center and our pools in general?
Thank you, Mayor. So I've talked about this topic to you all multiple times at the council meeting, so I will not belabor the point. But let me quickly share my experience. This is a bit difficult for me, but in my sophomore year in my college, my best friend drowned and passed away at a beach. This was in India. And I was able to save one other friend. Two other friends were saved by others. My best friend's mom came to me and said that, why were you not there with him? So, I stand here and I say, I want to be there with him, right? And that's why swimming matters this much to me. So I want us to have operating world-class pools, not just that we can help our children learn to swim, some adults learn to swim, but then also for our children to have dreams of one day becoming champions and leaders in our community. You might know the statistic. I don't know how true it is, but can't believe everything on the internet. So I pulled this off the internet. 95% of Fortune 500 company CEOs are former athletes. And so, sportsmanship, all that teaches leadership, and it's very important. And of course, it saves lives. So, again, you've heard a lot about the pools from me. Again, I won't repeat it. We do need them working.
Thank you. Thank you. Agree with that. So now, time for your 1-minute closing.
Thank you, Mayor. So thank you for taking the time to speak with me today and considering my candidacy. You heard some of the ideas. I have a lot of ideas. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of ideas. But what is important is action. And again, some of these ideas may not be good or feasible. And when I play my role, I want to be a catalyst in discussions, and then turning what the community needs into action. And that's where the challenge lies. But I do feel that I can bring together people with differing ideas and find a path forward where we can collaborate and move forward. And so I assure you that my words and actions will be based on data and rational analysis, and I'll do my best for this job. So thank you for hearing me out, and thank you again for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Very good, Vikas. Thank you for applying. And if you just want to hang tight here for a bit, we have one more interview, and then we'll be making a decision.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Mayor and Council, your last applicant was going to be in person, but he chose to be online. So we have Kieran Shindy online.
Kieran, are you there?
I'm there.
Okay, very good. Welcome, and thank you for applying for the position of Parks and Recreation Commissioner. Whenever you're ready, you can start your up to 3-minute introduction.
Sure. Do you need video? I can, I don't get the video option here, but I can switch on video.
That's up to you.
No, but I'm not getting video option on my Zoom.
You're not getting the video option.
Yeah, it is just showing the audio.
Oh, just audio?
Yeah.
Let's see. Hold on one second. We have help on the way here.
Thank you.
I think you're going to be coming up. Oh, there you are. Welcome. We see you.
Thank you.
Okay, whenever you're ready, go ahead, Kieran. Go ahead.
Sure. This is I'm Kiran Shinde. I live in Santa Clara. I'm living in Santa Clara for last almost 28th year now. And I'm a engineer, I'm a MBA, and I'm a law graduate too, before coming to US. Uh, I have been into IT profession for last 25 years plus. I am also individual business owner in Santa Clara. I run a couple of salons in Santa Clara. Apart from my education qualifications, I have done a couple of post-diploma and diploma courses in music. I have been a full-time performer before joining to IT, and I have done a lot of events and functions as I know the music and entertainment field. I have been associated with a couple of organizations in Bay Area. Mainly, I belong to a Maharashtrian community, so I was associated with the organization for almost 12 years. Before 12 years, like till 2014, and then I had to switch to the like my job and then managing business. But still, I am associated with a couple of organizations who are doing small or large programs. I myself a singer. I know a couple of instruments. I have managed shows from or the events from 25 people to 100,000 people while in India and then here also. Yeah, this is briefly about my experience in event management and then cultural activities.
Okay, very good. Kieran, we have some questions for you. The first, I'm going to start with Councilmember Chahal.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for applying, Mr. Kiran Shinde. The question is, have you attended or helped out at any of the citywide events that were held before shelter-in-place orders? Which one and what did you do?
No, I have attended as a participant in mainly wine festival, wine festival in Central Park. So, and then couple of times I have attended, almost every year, if the event is not there, but Independence Day celebrations in the Central Park, some of the other events also. But these are the major events I've been attending into Central Park, area.
Thank you.
Very good. Vice Mayor Park?
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for applying. What parks and recreation programs have you participated in and in what capacity? Which program would you like to expand?
I would like to kind of, expand, I would like to introduce some of the new programs or involve the other communities. There are no many Indian community or, specific, like say Chinese here. So there is no specific programs happens during Chinese New Year duration, or even there are a lot of festivals Indian community celebrates. So even I don't see those kind of celebrations happen because Santa Clara has a lot of Indians and then South Asian communities, and they have a lot of festivals, in their community. So we should do something which is bring them to the city platform, and we can offer them and then offer them this kind of program, and they can come to this kind of location, and then they can enjoy together.
Yes, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Becker?
Thank you for applying. So do you have any suggestions for how to increase the number of community gardens in the city of Santa Clara?
One is there are a lot of construction is happening since I'm here living in 20 years, and we are seeing a lot of lots have been getting converted to commercial and then residential units or the apartment buildings. So while doing this, we should look for the parks, even smaller parks, spaces for the people around that. Because right now, if you see that parks are very less in the neighborhood level. There are only one park saying, when I'm living in Santa Clara 95051. So closest one is the Central Park, and then other one is the here in Pomeroy. So I would say that if we can look for this kind of spaces where they are converted to residential and commercial lots, we can get some space from there and try to create a smaller parks where people can exercise, they can get together. Those kind of activities can happen.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Hardy?
Yes. Thank you for applying. Do you believe Santa Clara needs more parks and open space? And overall, how do you think we do implementing our parks?
We do need more parks and recreational, spaces, because even if you see that there are private, classes are happening, like private offerings are there, but they are not enough. Like they are almost like over registration happening, or people have to be waitlisted. So we need to work towards such a program where majority of the people can get access to that, because right now the population is high. Are you speaking something?
I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
was there-
No. So like majority of the people needs the access to these facilities.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Jane.
Thank you, Kiran. Do you have any comments about the status of the International Swim Center and our pools in general?
Yeah, my kids learn swimming there only, and I have been visiting there for their classes and their training. But yeah, it is like right now open space. Like when we are talking about the global warming and that, I'm not sure in this warm weather, it is so comfortable for parents to kind of bathe over there in the warm place. Basically, we need to create such a facility where it should create the comforts also, not only for the participants, but for the people like parents who are accompanying them. So that kind of facility is needed at the swim center.
Thank you. So it's time now for your up to 1 minute closing statement. Anything that you would like to leave us with, or you may have not talked about earlier, or anything you'd like to talk about for the next minute.
Sure, like I have a lot of experience in managing, almost 15 to 18 years experience in managing events and management, and then participating to even I was a campus beautification conveyor in my MBA time in India. So I have implemented a lot of programs over there. But I have enough, maybe I'm not able to speak out everything in this brief interview. But yeah, I have all the supporting qualifications also and experience I have been as a performer and as an event manager as well, and event coordinator. So I think if given an opportunity, I would like to contribute more and bring more people to the community programs in the Santa Clara.
Thank you. Thank you for all your answers. We appreciate, Kieran, you applying for this position. If you just hang with us a few more minutes, we're going to be taking a vote right now. So thank you for being with us. Now, City Clerk, so we have 3 applicants, 1 vote. We also put someone on an eligibility list, but we'll just vote for our top choice, the first vote, and then the second vote would be for the eligibility list.
If the council chooses to engage,
Okay.
if you feel that you have someone in mind that you would like to place on the eligibility list, otherwise,
Okay, so let's just start with our first vote.
okay. So.
All right, so 1 vote, correct?
1 vote, yes. So I'll start here with Councilmember Becker.
Yes, so 1 vote?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's go with Kiran.
Councilmember Hardy.
Peter?
Councilmember Jane.
Vikas?
Mayor Gilmore.
Vikas?
Councilmember Shahal.
Vikas Gupta.
And Vice Mayor Park.
Mr. Gupta.
All right, may I have a motion for Vikas Gupta to serve a full term on the Parks and Recreation Commission?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. City Clerk, when you're ready. Please register your votes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that passes with one abstention. Congratulations, Vikas, congratulations. So the next, do we want to put someone on an eligibility list of the next two?
It was even, so.
Well, does,
I'm not in favor of an eligibility list this time.
no? Eligibility list? I'm looking at you, Raj. Kevin? No, okay. No, that's it. Thank you very much to the other two applicants who applied. We appreciate it. There's lots of ways to volunteer in our city, but we will also have more commission openings as well. But even in our Parks and Recreation Department, because of the major events that we promote in Santa Clara, whether it's the Arts and Wine Festival or 4th of July or Christmas in the park or whatever we do here, there's always a need for people to volunteer. So please be in contact with our city and our Parks and Recreation Department. We don't want to lose people who are willing to volunteer. So thank you very much and congratulations, Vikas. All right, next we're going to move on to the next item is action to declare one vacancy due to a resignation, interview applicants, and appoint 3 applicants to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee to serve 1 full term, each ending June 30th, 2027, and 1 applicant to serve a partial term, ending June 20th, 2024. So the partial term is longer than the 3 terms, so when we, in order of placement, that would be the first one that's placed, and then the other 3 terms are equal in length. So we have 4 positions, and how many applicants here? We have 4 positions and...
We have 3 positions with 4.
3
with
positions.
5 applicants.
Yeah. Is it 3 or 4 positions? 3 applicants. Oh, 3 total. Sorry, I was counting 3 and 1. 3 with 5 applicants. 1 has withdrawn.
Yes.
So, when we're ready, City Clerk, to call the first applicant.
Ashish Joshi, and he is virtual.
Ashish, when you're ready.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Can you all see me?
Oh, we can see you now. Ashish, thank you for applying. Welcome. And whenever you're ready for your up to 3-minute introduction, we're ready for you.
Sure. Thank you so much. So I was in Vancouver 2 weeks ago with my wife and kid. We rented bikes for a day to sightsee the city, and we were blown away by the bicycle infrastructure they have. Vancouver is ranked the 2nd best city in North America for biking. 7.3% of all trips done in Vancouver are by bikes. And what's interesting here is that these numbers weren't always the same. In fact, they were quite poor until 2012, which is when the City Council of Vancouver adopted the Transportation 2040 plan that aims by the year 2040 to make 2/3 of all trips taken by either walking, cycling, or public transit. I feel that we have a similar tremendous opportunity in front of us to do something similar in the city of Santa Clara. Hi, I'm Ashish Joshi, a resident of the city of Santa Clara for the past 4 years. I'm a software engineer by profession, and I've been living in the South Bay for the last 12 years. I'm lucky to be living close to my work, a 5-mile one-way commute along the San Tomas Aquino Creek Trail, and so I bike to work on many days. Being an avid cyclist and a participant of triathlons, I'm deeply concerned about the biking and pedestrian infrastructure in the city. As someone who does both recreational and commute biking, I feel that I have a sense of the pain points of bikers and would be able to advocate for the improvements to be made to make biking more enticing to the city residents. Some numbers. I dug up some numbers and I found that the average Santa Clara commuter commutes less than 10 miles each way, but only about 2% commuters use bikes for their commute. The city of Mountain View, on the other hand, has a 6% biking rate, and I think we can aim to get close to that. I see 2 quick main challenges in why more people aren't biking. There's a lack of connectivity. We have nice trails, the Calabasas Trail, the Guadalupe River Trail, San Tomas Aquino Creek Trail. They're all great, but they end at 101, except the San Tomas Creek Trail. More bicycle infrastructure south of 101 and in the heart of the city would be a huge help. The other challenge that I see is low confidence in our bikeways being safe. There's a lack of dedicated bike lanes or bike paths. We hear stories and news of bike accidents from collision with a vehicle. And there's also a lack of safe bike parking places. So there's definitely an opportunity for us to tackle these challenges. While I may not have the full context of all the efforts the city has done or is doing at the present in this regard, since I haven't been actively involved in any of these efforts, to be honest, but I'm happy to dive into it and learn more. As someone who loves working with data and has good analytical abilities, I feel that I'll be able to help the City Council make better informed decisions by being a part of the BPAC committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have 5 questions. I believe you have received them ahead of time, so I'm going to start with the first question. Do you feel there should be more bike lockers in developments or public spaces? What would you do to advocate for those needs?
Yeah, I absolutely feel that bike lockers really feel is a challenge that we have. When I want to go, say to groceries or go somewhere on El Camino Real, my biggest safety concern is, will my bike be stolen? Will it stay safe when I either shop or even when I'm out visiting a friend? So I think bike lockers are definitely going to help promote and let people feel safe. And I think the second part of the question was, sorry, I lost my.
What would you do to advocate for those needs?
Right. So to advocate those needs, I always believe in data and try to find some data and maybe run some surveys and see how much of that is going to directly help people in psychological safety. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Chahal?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for applying, Ashish. My question is, what do you think about the amount of money the city budgets for bicycle and ped improvements?
Yeah, so I have a little less knowledge on this. I did look up numbers from the 2018 report that the city published. I, as a bicyclist, would always feel the more the money, the better it is. And we can use those funds to better our bicycling infrastructure. I would honestly, I mean, I understand that there's also bicycling and pedestrians is not the only thing that city does. There's other things as well. So we have to balance the priorities. With the limited knowledge that I have, I would see if the committee can get more funds to run more programs. I would need a little more information in how to do that. So honestly, I'll say I'm limited in answering this question right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Watanabe?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for applying, Ashish. So what do you think of the shared mobility program in Santa Clara, that being the bikes and scooters?
I think it's a great program. The partners that we've chosen are also great and well known. But I see 2 issues with that. One is I think it hasn't reached the community members. Not many people know of it. So that's definitely a good thing. Like a great program, if people don't know about, goes wasted. So I think there's definitely scope for us to spread the word on that. And the other thing is we need to make sure that those bikes are accessible. If they aren't placed at places where they are easily accessible for me, or if I have to walk there like 15 minutes, there's a lower chance that I'm going to use them. Just like what Uber or these high scales of economy companies do. Figure out what are the best places to keep those bikes for maximum usage. If you could solve those 2 issues, I think this program can be a huge hit. Because I think the price is also incredibly great. It's something like $5 a month, and you get to use their e-bikes, which is awesome.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Park?
Thank you very much, Ashish, for applying. What do you think of implementing Vision Zero program in the city of Santa Clara?
it's an amazing program. I've seen other cities implement it. There's so much to learn from them. I think it's something that's a must, and that's the city of Santa Clara should do. Looking at the Nixle, the updates that we get in our emails about accidents or fatalities in the city of Santa Clara is a little scary. I think this is definitely the future, and we should adopt it. Biking and pedestrian infrastructure improvement will be a huge impetus for that. Bikes and walking, of course, any self-powered commute has consistently shown to be very safe and really helpful in reducing the fatalities. So yes, the idea of Vision Zero program, no fatalities in transportation, would be great to have, and supported with the biking and pedestrian infrastructures that we do, would be a hit.
Thank you. Councilmember Becker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for applying. So my question for you is, what do you think, my apologies, how do you categorize and address challenges for elderly, expectant mothers, toddlers, and others who may not easily walk or bicycle to destinations like, but not limited to, grocery stores, schools, and restaurants?
Yeah, so this is a great question because I have experienced all three categories. When my dad was here, he was an elderly. We just had a baby last year, and my wife was pregnant, and now I have a kid, 9-month-old. We've experienced the challenges of biking for these three categories. And I believe the two challenges that I talked about earlier, good connectivity and providing safe biking infrastructure, are key to having a good environment for especially these three categories. Be willing to go out on the road and use these, and basically use bicycling as their commute or recreational cycling. There were many instances where my father or even like my wife wanted to go out, but they would only use either the GRT, the Guadalupe River Trail, or San Tomas Aguirre Trail, because they were safe and they wouldn't feel safe going on the roads where they weren't dedicated or fast one bike lanes. So I think doing those two things will not only help these three categories, but pretty much everyone in this.
Thank you. It's now time for your 1-minute closing, up to 1-minute closing statement.
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much for the questions and for giving me the opportunity to put myself out here. There are various ways to incentivize or reward people to bike. Apart from providing an excellent biking infrastructure, the rewards could be monetary. You get a small subsidy to buy a bike of your own if you show that you bike to work consistently over a certain period, or they could be non-monetary, like maintaining a leaderboard or awarding certain types of physical or virtual badges. We've seen how bike to work days or national bike months motivate folks to get on bikes. I feel that creating more such virtual monthly programs and challenges, having viral hashtags and videos and reels, can also be a huge impetus. I've seen many of these things work at my company. In the end, I feel that the best influencers are your peers and your society. When I see a few of my friends or colleagues bike to work or run errands on bikes, there's a high chance that I might start doing it too. So while building a great biking infrastructure is a must, if you can also create a positive biking culture in our city, more people will start biking. I hope that we can do that effectively and make Santa Clara a bike-friendly city.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ashish. Thank you so much for applying. We're going to be making our decision right after the last interview. So if you want to stay tuned on Zoom, you can watch us. And again, thank you very much for applying for the Bicycle Committee. We appreciate it. All right, City Clerk.
Your next applicant is Ken Kratz, and he is online.
Ken? Hello, Ken? Is he unmuted?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, there you go. All right, Ken, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
You can start anytime with your up to 3-minute opening statement.
Very good. I'll start now. My name is Ken Kratz, and I've lived in Santa Clara for 45 years and served on the BPAC many years ago. I still attend meetings regularly. I am a retired city employee who worked at the city for 30 years that included 26 years as a public works inspector, where I inspected over $25 million of public improvements and maintenance projects, including many for pedestrians and cyclists that required knowledge of design and construction standards. Those bicycle and pedestrian improvement projects included 2 phases of the Santa Tomas Aquina Creek Trail, miles of sidewalk installations, and many traffic signal installations. Maintenance projects included sidewalk maintenance projects and miles of asphalt, concrete pavement replacement projects. With that background, I will be able to help BPAC evaluate improvement and maintenance projects. I also have helped at many city-sponsored Bike to Work days, providing minor bicycle repairs, and also attend the city-sponsored Bike to Shop day events. I have also been a leader and member of the BPAC subcommittee on roundabouts that I suggested be formed, and have secured city staff input as to criteria to be followed for installing roundabouts in our city. One item I'm most proud of is my suggestion and BPAC and staff's approval of changing the vertical lip of our city standard driveways to one that is sloped, that is smoother, so that bikes, scooters, and wheelchairs and other small wheeled items do not have a bump to negotiate when entering or exiting a driveway. Another item I'm proud of is my suggestion that BPAC recommend the City Council write a letter to the Santa Clara Valley Water District asking them to save the bridge that connects businesses near Intel with the Santa Tomas Aquina Creek Trail. The bridge was saved. I'm interested in bicycle and pedestrian projects since I regularly use a bicycle to attend high school and college, and I commuted 3 miles to my job with the city for decades. Also, I went entirely without a car for 5 years by walking, bicycling, and taking public transit to my destinations. I know firsthand how inconvenient these methods of getting around are compared to car use, and I therefore believe I'm in a good position to make recommendations to improve these forms of mobility. My involvement with cycling goes beyond advocacy of improvements and volunteering at city events. I helped form and run a 501c3 nonprofit bicycle repair clinic in East Palo Alto for 13 years, where volunteers and I instructed youths in the repair of their bicycles. East Palo Alto at that time did not have a bicycle shop. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. We're going to start with our questions, and the first question will be from Councilmember Hardy.
Thank you, Ken. Do you feel there should be more bike lockers in developments or public spaces? What would you do to advocate for those needs if you felt we needed that?
Yes, we need more bike lockers as well as bicycle racks in developments and public spaces. Bicyclists need lockers where the bicycle will be left unattended for many hours, such as at work, school, and residential locations. And bicyclists need more bicycle racks at stores, post offices, libraries, community centers, and parks where bicycles are left unattended for shorter periods of time. I will advocate for the city to increase funding to purchase and install these facilities at existing businesses and multifamily complexes, similar to the program in San Jose. The city has some requirements for installing these types of facilities in new developments. Bike lockers should be self-ventilating type to reduce rusting of wet bicycles. Racks and lockers need to be placed near entrances to facilities and exposed to public view to deter bicycle theft. I will advocate for these bicycle parking and storage improvements for existing and new developments.
Thank you. Councilmember Jane.
Thank you, Ken. What do you think about the amount of money the city budgets for bicycle and ped improvements?
Yeah, I think funding needs to be increased, particularly for cycling improvements. Our city has a fairly extensive sidewalk network, though sidewalk enhancements such as increased lighting should be considered. These projects are normally funded through the lengthy government grant application process with additional funds provided by the city. BPAC should be advising City Council to increase funding for these projects by increasing taxes in the city and by proposing county tax measures that increase the percentage of funds going to pedestrian and bicycling projects, and by lobbying state and federal governments to increase funding for these projects. Many projects proposed by BPAC go unfunded. As funds become available, I would like to see more concentration on projects that serve very local bicycling and walking needs within districts. With good city planning, every district should have destinations that would provide everyday needs within bicycling and walking distance.
Thank you. Ken, what do you think of shared mobility programs in our city, like with bikes and scooters?
Yeah, it's too early to make an informed opinion. However, I think a good program will tie public transit, the buses, light rail, and commuter rail to the shared bikes and scooters in order to cover the last mile of journey. I would like that intermodal transition to be facilitated by the use of Clipper card rather than the current use of a cell phone. Not everyone has a cell phone. Another problem that has not been addressed by the current program is the parking of those shared bikes and scooters. I suggested at a recent BPAC meeting that our city sidewalks that are normally only 5 feet wide and barely wide enough for a wheelchair user to be widened in locations where scooters accumulate. Those parking locations should be shown on a paper-based city bicycle map, as well as on a Google map for easy reference for shared mobility program users.
Thank you, Ken. Councilmember Chahal.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for applying, Mr. Ken. What do you think of implementing Vision Zero program in City of Santa Clara?
I am glad the council adopted and funded a Vision Zero policy in 2021 to reduce traffic deaths and injuries. I will work with fellow BPAC members to make recommendations to be included in the city's Vision Zero implementation plan that is being developed. Under the Vision Zero plan, I hope the city will improve cycling safety by reducing speed limits on our streets and by providing room on the street for cycling, by reducing motor vehicle lane widths to minimums, or by removing lanes entirely on multi-lane streets where possible. BPAC and the city need to investigate, as I have come to realize, protected bicycle lanes that make people feel safer, such as the installation of concrete walls, bollards, and parked cars on our streets where possible, particularly if it has been demonstrated to be effective in other cities. The city also needs to develop a network of bikeways that connect the city to destinations so that motor vehicles drivers expect cyclists on those streets. All too often, bike lanes end abruptly within the city and do not connect with bike lanes from neighboring cities, making cycling unexpected for the automobile drivers. The city could further reduce collisions by constructing pedestrian walkways that cut through blocks of residences in order to allow residents of that neighborhood to reach nearby destinations safely and with less walking, similar to the one I've seen that connects Eisenhower Elementary School with the residential neighborhood located across Allen Way. Other walkways should be provided to shopping centers, parks, and businesses. Many businesses occupy corner lots that have openings and fences that allow public access.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Watanabe.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for applying, Ken. My question for you is, how would you categorize and address challenges for elderly, expectant mothers, toddlers, and others who may not easily walk or bicycle to destinations like, but not limited to, grocery stores, schools, and restaurants?
Yes, for those who do not own or cannot drive a car or cannot walk, cycle, or take public transit, those problems are more likely addressed by current social services at the county level. Our city currently only provides referrals to transportation assistance. It would make more sense to expand those county services to others in need rather than the city developing a separate transit system to augment the county services. For instance, the Santa Clara County Transit Authority offers an extensive paratransit service for disabled people who meet ADA requirements. It would make sense to expand that service to others in need. In regard to expectant mothers and mothers with toddlers who need medical assistance, the County of Santa Clara Public Health Department's Pregnancy and Parenting Referral Line can provide referrals to low-cost and no-cost transportation options. Senior assisted living facilities and hospitals in our city offer shuttle services. For those not ready for these types of assistance, cycling can be extended somewhat in your later years by the use of an adult trike, either human-powered or motorized, that provides more stability for the rider than a bicycle. I saw an elderly person on one of these recently in a bike lane on Monroe in Sunnyvale with a bag of groceries in the basket, evidently from one of the nearby stores. My idea to provide walkways between blocks of homes to nearby destinations that I suggested earlier makes sense to assist others who are less mobile.
Thank you, Ken, for your detailed answers. It's now time for your up to 1 minute closing statement.
Yes. If appointed to the BPAC, I will carry out my duties to consider and vote on all projects suggested by the engineering and planning staffs, as well as fellow BPAC members. I will also contribute ideas as I have in the past. My ideas come from cycling experience in adjacent cities, reading books on the subject, reviewing adjacent city websites for future planning ideas, and reviewing websites of organizations that are devoted to bicycling and pedestrian advocacy, such as the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition and CalBike. Additionally, due to the urgent need to address the climate crisis, I will advocate that BPAC recommend the City Council recommend legislation at the county, state, and federal levels of government in order to increase funding for bicycling and pedestrian programs and infrastructure in a similar type of lobbying done by the United States Conference of Mayors organization that convenes regularly in Washington to ensure that federal policy addresses the priorities of cities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken, and thank you for applying. If you just hang with us for a while, we'll be making a decision after our last interview. We have 3 more to go. All right? Thank you very much for applying again. All right, City Clerk?
Next candidate is Betsy Migas, and she is here.
Betsy, please come forward. Hello. Welcome, Betsy. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
When you're ready for your up to 3-minute introduction.
Okay. What can do here? Good evening. I am Betsy Migas. I think I know most of you already. I grew up just across the line in Sunnyvale, which means I've been walking in the city of Santa Clara since about age 3, and bicycling in the city of Santa Clara since maybe age 10 or 12. I bought a house here in Santa Clara a little over 20 years ago to be within bicycling distance of work, which I once again am. I live a bit south of Homestead, and I commute most of the length of the city by bicycle most days, which is a round trip of about 11 miles. In the years when I kept track, I biked about 3,000 miles per year, mostly inside Santa Clara, although I visit other cities and occasionally comment on their proposals too. When the pedestrian undercrossing went in at the Santa Clara Transit Center, my husband and I got a bicycle trailer, and we started doing our Costco shopping by bicycle. We can fit about 50 pounds of groceries in our trailer, and it's an excellent way to avoid the congested parking lot there. We do own a car. I share it with my husband. Together, we've put about 1,400 miles on it in the past 6 months. And I think many of you already know that I am the VTA BPAC liaison currently, and the vice chair of that committee at the moment. I don't have a bunch more to say, so if you don't mind continuing to the questions.
Yes, very good. All right, we'll start with Vice Mayor Park.
Thank you very much for applying, Betsy. Do you feel there should be more bike lockers in developments or public spaces? What would you do to advocate for those needs?
So, yes, absolutely. I wonder how many of you folks know where the bike lockers here at City Hall are. And I wonder if any of you have ever used them, because last I checked, they were all locked. I would love it if there were bike lockers everywhere I went. Within the city of Santa Clara, as we learned in the last year on the BPAC, there were 259 reported bicycle thefts, and I think they go underreported by quite a bit, in a 12-month period. That's about 1 per weekday. Secure bicycle storage really is the best defense against this discouraging and widespread problem. I would ask all of you to know about bike lockers. Bike lockers really need to be done right to work. Most of the public lockers really should be electronic, I think. At the very least, they need to be labeled, available, and maintained. I see a lot of bike lockers getting installed to kind of check boxes and then get permanently locked, like the ones out here, or even removed, like the ones next to Target, when they fill up with trash or the management decides they don't like maintaining them. I think it would help to declare up front, perhaps, if bike lockers are meant to be for the public, for customers, versus for employees or residents only. And I think they need to be labeled. I was putting my bike into a locker one time, and somebody walking by went, "Oh, that's what that is." So, some simple things can make a big difference when we're talking about installing bike lockers. Both of our train stations already have bike link lockers, and I suggest that any new electronic lockers be compatible with both that system and with Clipper cards if possible, so that the more people have access to all of them. Even installing electronic bike lockers costs far less than installing one car parking space. There is some development money coming from, I think it's probably the Related project, and it's going to several bike locker locations around town. We've heard about it a couple times on the BPAC. We weren't informed about it. We weren't asked about where to put them. Here's the list of where we're thinking of putting them. So one thing that I would suggest is if it comes time to allocate bike lockers or money for bike lockers, ask the BPAC for advice on where to prioritize. Another possible source of funding for bike lockers is the Transportation Development Act funding. It's we use that at the moment for various other things, but it is possible to use that for bike lockers. And then the other thing I would say about bike theft while I'm on the subject is our police department does not seem to be very interested in really addressing bike theft, even though police interest is one of the most important factors in reducing the numbers.
Thank you. Councilmember Becker?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Betsy, for applying. So my question for you is actually kind of just touched on it just a tiny bit in your last one, and maybe you can elaborate a little more. But what do you think about the amount of money the city budgets for bicycle and ped improvements?
There's two parts of this question as far as I'm concerned. About every meeting, we get a little table in the BPAC packet. You are welcome to look it up. With on the order of $20 million in any given time period of grants that are being tracked. That's applied for, in use, finishing up, whatever. And almost all of that is grant money. And I want to say that other than, kind of routine maintenance stuff, really the only money that the city specifically puts towards bicycle and pedestrian projects that isn't grant funded is the match for grants, usually. So I would like to see, obviously I would like to see more of a commitment. And one of the proposals that I've heard is, bicycling and walking is, only a couple of % of the mode share, but I don't think it's even 1 or 2% of the transportation budget. So that would be one place to start, is just allocating in proportion to how much biking and walking you want to see.
Okay. Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you. Councilmember Hardy?
Thank you, Betsy. What do you think of the shared mobility program in Santa Clara, the e-bikes or bikes and scooters?
This is not in order. So I think it's a great way to provide first and last mile connections without people having to own or store or a scooter or bike of their own, or worry about locking it. That's a big deal if you're, trying to get to and from the train station 8 hours apart. The version I had going in was one pro and one con. I think it's unfortunate that our bicycle network makes some novice riders so uncomfortable riding in the street that they resort to using the sidewalks. And in case anybody thinks that the negative is that scooters block the sidewalks is the right answer to that question, I would love to talk to any of you about ways to keep the sidewalks clear of everything else. That's shopping carts, real estate signs, trash bins, overgrown vegetation, illegally parked cars, and construction zone signage that shouldn't be there. So,
Thank you. Councilmember Jane?
Thank you, Betsy. What do you think about implementing Vision Zero programs in the city?
So Vision Zero is kind of a funny name for a program that has at its core the idea that the only acceptable number of traffic deaths is 0. I was kind of disappointed in that our 2018 bicycle plan said, maybe we'll look at Vision Zero in 2026, which it did. I'm glad that we've that we've moved that schedule up somewhat, that we've found funding to make the plan. I'm certainly in favor of doing it. Even if we can't design out every possible problem, we have a lot of room for improvement, making our streets safer and discouraging speeding and other bad behavior, which also, speeding annoys people who live there too. While I'm talking about Vision Zero, I would like to ask the council to consider a few things. I would like to ask you all to look at achieving 0 deaths and major injuries in a way that invites walking and bicycling, and not by trying to push walking and bicycling off of the roads and, quarantining it to the trail or anything like that. I would like to encourage all of you to look at the data that already exists. There's way too much of it. I would like all of us to consider equity when deciding on the priorities. And I would like us not to study everything forever. A report on the website doesn't keep anybody safer. We really need to commit to implementing. Vision Zero is for all road users, not just bikes and pedestrians. Discouraging speeding makes driving safer too, and it makes walking and biking more comfortable and more inviting. And it potentially makes neighborhoods quieter and more pleasant places to be.
Betsy, how would you categorize and address challenges for the elderly, expectant mothers, toddlers, and others who may not easily walk or bicycle to destinations but are not limited to grocery stores, schools, restaurants, etc.?
So I noticed that this question doesn't actually mention people with disabilities. I think most of the people this question does mention, mostly in practice, choose to drive today. And I'd like to challenge the council to think in terms of making our city more accessible to everybody, including people with disabilities and including those who can't or shouldn't drive. I think if we do that, the way will be clear for everyone else too, including people pushing a stroller or wheeling a suitcase, if we get curb cuts done right. And for anybody who'd rather not drive and park to shop at a supermarket or get a child to school a quarter mile away. The challenges in our city are many and varied, and I'd say the hardest part is going to be how spread out things are. There are places in our city where it's quite a walk to transit or shopping or school. And there are many more places, and unfortunately, we kind of continue to build them, especially on the north side, where destinations may be relatively nearby, but car-free access is a matter of moving along or across a street like Tasman or Great America Parkway. And that's difficult. I think a lot of people are just going to hop in their car at that point, no matter how close it is. At the same time, we are still in the process of stuff like adding curb ramps to older neighborhoods, and it's challenging. We have to do all of the things, but I look forward to including all of the accessibility features.
Okay, thank you. So now it's time for your up to 1 minute closing statement.
Well, I think you all know me. I have enjoyed my last 3 years on the city BPAC and also the VTA, which is the county BPAC. I think they're both very distinct experiences and very different levels of focus. But it's, I very much enjoy being able to interact with the environment that I navigate on my bike. To be able to go back and give suggestions and make that difference to my own commute and to everybody else who's commuting or biking just for fun.
Very good. Thank you so much, Betsy. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
applying. If you want to just hang with us for a while, we'll be making a decision in a few minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, City Clerk, next.
The next applicant is James Parasenti, and I believe he's out in the lobby there. James?
Is he out in the hallway? There he is. Hello. Yes, please. You know where that is. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Now it's time for your up to 3-minute introduction, and then we have some questions for you.
Cool. First of all, I'd like to
Can you
thank
speak into the microphone? Yeah, just a little bit closer
How's
to you,
that?
so everyone at home can hear you. Thank you.
To begin, thank you very much. You've given me the first time since I retired to wear a fun tie. It's not a wedding, it's not a funeral, so I got to pull out a fun tie. So it's worth it just by that. Again, my name's Jim Parasenti. I live on Londonderry Drive in Santa Clara. I'm an experienced cyclist, which also means I'm old, I guess. I ride about 3,000 miles a year, so I put a lot of miles on the bikes and all on the road, so I see all the problems and the crazy drivers and all of that. So I've done that. I also have extensive experience riding in Europe. Cute wife is a Belgian, so we go over there a lot. I've seen what can be done to really encourage cycling in a safe, intelligent manner. So I'd like to bring that to the committee. I'm a retired principal engineer for the city. Worked right over there in the old courthouse for about 35 years. I built the Santa Masakino Creek Trail. All of those green bike lanes, well, they may have put some in since I retired, but built most of them and know the problems associated with those. Countless driveways, miles of sidewalks, and a jillion curb ramps. So I'm experienced with the things that people deal with on bicycles and pedestrians from a practical standpoint too. When they say go build it, I've seen what works and what doesn't. So that's why I'm here today.
Very good. So we do have some questions for you, which I hope you received ahead of time, but the first would be from Councilmember Chahal.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for applying, Mr. James.
Thank you.
Question is, do you feel there should be more bike lockers in the development or public spaces? What would you do to advocate for these?
Fortunately, we got all the questions, so I hope you don't mind. I have my little cheat sheets.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Use your cheat.
As I look at it, the purpose of bike lockers is to encourage the use of bikes by providing safe storage. I'll be honest, when you ride kind of a lot like I do, you tend to buy more expensive bicycles. There's no way in the world someone's going to put a $5,000 bicycle with a little chain around it in front of Lucky's to the little bike locker thing, or the bike lock thing. Really, yes, I think bike lockers are a great idea in the right place. They're a perfect place at work or someplace else you're going to go often. And I've seen them here at City Hall where they had them, and I saw the pluses and minuses. They are fabulous for encouraging you to go ride your bike, get to work, put it in the locker, and know it'll be there safe. It won't be rained on and all of that, so you can go home. You do need to have a responsible person to keep an eye on the bike lockers. Some people tend to put it in there and then it rains once and they don't use the bike. They leave the bike in the locker for the whole winter. And then they forget about it, get used to driving, and it sits there for a year and a half. So it has to be, you need to get a responsible person to monitor the bike lockers, but they're fantastic when used properly. To encourage their use, it seems to me the best way is if a business is required to put in X number of parking spaces in front of their business or their store or whatever, it would seem reasonable as a planning requirement to put in so many bike lockers. Not excessive, don't go crazy, but have them and then tell them right up front, you have to monitor these, you have to make sure they're maintained and make sure they're used right. And the businesses and whatnot usually will be pretty good about that. So bike lockers are a great idea.
Thank you. Councilmember Watanabe?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for replying, James. So this question might be right up your alley. What do you think about the amount of money the city budgets for bicycle and pet improvements?
Well, I would love to say, oh, spend $1 zillion. But I've worked for the city for 35 years, which meant for 34, most of those, I went to the annual budget meeting that Jennifer Sparacino used to give, and it was always the same thing, that we're fine for this year as long as we're careful. We'll be iffy next year, we'll be broke the third year. And I think she was lying, pretty much. But we're not in good economic shape now. So you can't just say, let's go spend infinite amounts of money on these kind of improvements. You have to be responsible. Now, the way you can be responsible, and if I were recommending to the council as a budget item, I would say my first priority is to maintain what we have. I've seen other cities, and I will not use San Jose's name in vain, who builds fabulous things and then doesn't touch it for 7 years, and their bike paths they fall apart. There's weeds growing on them and all of that. I would recommend we take care of what we have first. That would be my budget priority to the city. Keep not just keep the paths clean, keep the weeds down. One of the most important parts of biking in town is keeping the roads swept well, especially the bike paths. Getting a flat tire on Mondays and Thursdays when you're driving to work is annoying, and it discourages people from riding. So that's where I would push spending the money immediately. And of course, it would be really great to encourage staff to assign somebody, probably not full-time, but at least part-time, look for grants. You can get incredibly nifty grants. I mean, 100% ones, they're a no-brainer. They're fabulous. 90-10, that's pretty good. 50-50, you got to trust staff to look into it and see if it's worth coming to you and say, we'd like to spend this amount of money on it. Because coming before the council and saying, I want to spend a lot of money on something is not easy. So that's where I would put my budget priorities.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Park?
Yeah, thank you very much, James. I wish you had gotten the question about the International Swim Center based on your answer, the last answer. What do you think of the shared mobility program in Santa Clara, which comprises bikes and scooters?
Let's see. They're really neat. They're a good idea. Having them around is, as opposed to a car, or at least using a car, it's cheaper. You don't have to pay for parking, and they can be a lot of fun, especially the scooters. We had a guy, one of the guys I was working with, had more toys than anybody I've ever seen. And he had, this is before the scooters, electric scooters came out. He had one of the first ones. And he didn't use it anymore, so we brought it here to City Hall. And we used it to get from the old courthouse here and down the corridors, but don't tell anybody. And I could see why people like them. And they're a good thing. We should encourage them, the scooters and the bikes. On the downside, it's gotten better, but I go to the Trader Joe's and Target over on Coleman, and you used to see them. They were just all over the sidewalks, left in bad places. It would seem that the companies don't like this either, but when a company comes to town and says, we'd like to do this, make sure that they understand that we're going to be serious about them cleaning up when people do something stupid with their scooter or their bicycle, that they have to be left in a responsible place. But encourage it. They're a really good idea.
Thank you very much, sir.
Councilmember Becker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for applying. So my question for you is, what do you think of implementing Vision Zero program in the city of Santa Clara?
Vision Zero it reminds me of, what's that new term? Let's go back to, woke. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe I'm just out of it, but I don't understand what woke is. But Vision Zero is sort of like that in that it means so many different things to so many different people under so many circumstances. Seeing what it actually is a program to reduce deaths and serious injuries on our roadways to zero, to none. It is a wonderful aspiration. It is something we should obviously encourage. The program as it was originally established, I believe it was in Sweden or somewhere, education to change attitudes, enforcement, reduce speeds, which is the most important element in it, and of course, physical changes to the streets to make them safer for people. My thoughts, it is obviously a moral and ethical goal. It is something, anybody who says they don't think that should happen, they're just simply bad people. It should be a goal that we should work for. It should be it's something everybody should embrace. And we should try to publicize it. The saying goes, it's one of those things you should sell. It'd be really great. Stick it in the newspaper, put it on TV, just little public service notices going, this is our idea. We want to reduce these to zero. This is what we, the city, are doing. We're making corners not quite so steep. It'd be great to do a lot more enforcement. I'm not sure how many of you have driven on the Highway 280 International Raceway, particularly up on the peninsula. I mean, the speeds over there are just shocking. And you hear of people crashing, and it's horrible. Enforcement is not cheap. I mean, policemen are expensive. Maybe there's another way. I really like the idea of these traffic cameras coming in. Yes, there's privacy concerns, but you compare, you're off on the road, I can see you driving. That is a privacy concern versus how many people get killed and how many more people get injured. This is a serious thing. And it's something we should do our best to embrace. And it's something from a City Hall, tell Public Works, hey guys, when you're designing streets, let's start thinking about this even more so. I'm old. We used to go, we wanted to get from here to there as fast as we can in our car. Maybe we want to get there fairly quickly in our car, but make it safer. It's a shift in attitude.
Thank you. Councilmember Hardy.
Yes. Thank you, James. How would you categorize and address challenges for elderly, expectant mothers, toddlers, and others who may not walk or bike to destinations, like not limited to grocery stores, schools, restaurants, things like that?
My mom used a walker and was later in a wheelchair. I'm very familiar with the challenges associated with that. First and foremost, let's deal with the elderly. I don't think expectant moms I have enormous respect for. I think they can get anywhere they want to. I think of after the baby is born pushing the stroller. That's hard. So something we as a city need to do is keep up with repairs of displaced sidewalks. Sounds like a simple thing. Tripping hazards, stuff like that. Keep putting in curb ramps. We do it regularly. Again, I'm old. They used to be fairly cheap. They were simple. They're much more complicated now. You got to lower the street. They're much more expensive. And they're worth every penny. If you can't do as many, do them as you get money and get them in. Keep bushes clear of sidewalks. They grow over it. Again, this is a million years ago. One of our guys, he worked here. One of his summer things was he got together with the Boy Scouts on city time, and he went around the city and hacked back bushes from sidewalks. I haven't done that lately, but it's a really good idea. Stuff like that, keeping it visible. And finally, something the planners can do. When a parking lot, is constructed originally or rebuilt, which happens a lot, they make it really easy for the cars to get in. They're required to make it real easy to get from a handicap space to the front door, but there's nothing to keep from the sidewalk to the building or even through the parking lot safely. A simple, putting that in the mind of the person designing the parking lot, saying, you've got to put like a little walkway, going from here to here, here to here. It doesn't take up much space, and it gives people a safe place to walk through the parking lot, from the street, from a bus stop, from wherever, to get into the building or the business or the store or whatever. Let's see. Oh, kids in schools. Keep adding bike lanes. The more of them, the better. I know they're a little bit expensive, but getting them in. A big thing that I would do is encourage and push for going to the schools, meeting with the parents' groups and saying, you have kids, you live over there, the school is over here. Where do you think the bike lanes should go? We want to put them in. Now, on your little residential street, they probably aren't really necessary, but if you know your kids and all these other kids go from here to here and they get onto this street and ride through there, would that be a good place for bike lane? You tell us what you think. Get input from the people that are actually, their kids are riding it and they're scared, so they won't let their kids ride, so they get in their car and drive to school. Something you want to avoid.
Thank you, Jim. Or James. So
You call me Jim. I put James because that's my official name.
Yeah, unofficially Jim. So now it's time for your up to 1 minute closing.
I applied because I think I can help. I have a lot of experience, both as a cyclist, seeing what works, what doesn't work, what I'd like to see. And I have decades of experience building those things and working with those things to try to bring a practical approach to recommendations from the BPAC. A lot of times, they tend to get kind of pie-in-the-sky stuff. Not a lot of times, but once in a while. And it's important to have people sit back and go, well, that's really going to be tough. So let's try something a little different. See if we can make it more practical. And that's what I'd like to do.
Thank you. Thank you for your detailed answers as well. I appreciate it. Feel free to stay and join with us. We have one more applicant to interview, and then we'll be making a decision.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, James.
Next applicant is Stephen Clark Seninger, and he is online.
He's online?
Yes.
Okay, Stephen? Can you hear us, Stephen?
You're muted.
Stephen?
You're muted. Unmute yourself, please.
Stephen? Oh, there you are. Hello. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Let's make sure your audio's okay. I'm hearing a echo. Do you have anything else open that you can close? You're frozen now. There you go.
Is that better?
Much better. Welcome, Stephen.
Okay.
So when you're ready, we're ready for your up to 3-minute opening statement.
Wonderful. If I cut out at any point, please let me know. And hopefully we can make it through this whole thing without my kids banging on the door. So
No worry about the kids. No worries. Okay.
I've got my 3-year-old daughter throwing snacks to my son. So the last guy, he had on a tie. I've got my bike shirt on. So this, the whole bike paraphernalia is becoming a theme. My name's Clark Seninger. I live on Pomeroy Avenue in Santa Clara. I work for Apple as a deals and partnerships manager. I really saw this position come through kind of a random email and thought it was interesting. And so I thought I would apply. I love cycling and bikes. I've been cycling pretty much daily for the last 12 years. Since I was in college. I just generally think that more people on bikes is a good thing for the community and the planet. I've also lived in Europe for several years in my early 20s. So I've seen kind of the differences between, cities and places that have a focus on efficient means of public transportation. When I was there, I rode exclusively trains and buses, which was a great way to get around. So I'm a big advocate of public transit. I'm an avid cyclist, daily rider, both to work with my kids, whether that's on the e-bike or one of our other bikes. I ride about 250 miles a week. I have done several ultra distance events ranging from 200 to 400 miles. That's kind of my hobby that I do, if you can call it that. I've commuted everywhere in all the jobs I've had in my professional career, Mountain View, Palo Alto, San Jose. I've ridden, pretty much every road there is in this area. I was also interested in this position because I'm concerned about safety. In 2019, I had a pretty serious crash commuting to work on Foothill Expressway. Where I woke up in the ER. I was sideswiped by a car commuting to work. So I'm really looking to find ways that I can make an impact and give back. So that's me.
Very good. Would you like to be addressed as Clark or Stephen?
We got another Jim James situation here. All of the males in my family go by Stephen, which is we have the first name of Stephen, which is our legal name, but we go by our middle names. So Clark would be great.
Okay, Clark, thank you. Thank you for joining us, Clark. We have a few questions for you. We're going to start with Councilmember Jane.
Thank you, Clark, for applying. Do you feel that there should be more bike lockers in developments or public spaces? And what would you do to advocate for those needs?
Yeah, so in researching this question beforehand, I was actually pleasantly surprised to see the number of existing bike lockers kind of spread across Santa Clara County, whether that's Caltrain, VTA, or at some of the city buildings. I think that in general, more bike lockers are a good thing. It encourages more people to commute and use them. I think, there are ways to promote awareness. I'm not sure if you're aware of the platform or the website called Bike Link, but that's one that I found kind of coming across this, which maps out all the bike lockers and kind of found that there is a really good infrastructure. I think that more awareness and promotion could be through things like interactive maps, QR codes, clearer directions on use, ease of use, and fairness for those people that truly need it. I think there's a specific phenotype that uses bike lockers, and so kind of catering to those people that would benefit most would be, I think, highly needed. So I think overall, providing that peace of mind would promote more people to be engaged in commuting and cycling, and that safe bike parking is really a big barrier for a lot of people to get on the bike. A lot of people have either small working spaces or their offices might not allow them to have a bike. So I think the more public places, whether that's at, say, large retailers or businesses, or even shared bike parking, say at large apartment complexes, there's a lot of opportunities, I think, to allow people to safely store their bikes. And so I think it's a good thing. I actually came across some interesting statistics about Paris. They have this plan called Plan Velo, which is them constructing about 130,000 new places for cyclists to store their bikes. And then another just kind of interesting fact that I ran across is that a 2017 survey on Black and Latinx residents in New Jersey found that the respondents thought that the desire for secure bike parking was the second most desired infrastructure development. So right up there with off-street parking and cycle paths themselves. So these are the types of potentially marginalized groups that are kind of concerned about robbery and assault, and they lump that in with bike theft. And I think that's a huge barrier to riding. So the more bike lockers we can have, the better in my mind.
Thank you. So your next question, Clark, is what do you think about money, the amount of money that the city spends and budgets for bicycle and pedestrian improvements? Actually budget, not spends.
Yeah. I'm again fairly new to this space. I don't have a ton of experience. So what I know is from what I read from past years and from what some of the other candidates have said. But I think again, some of the priorities, on the budget should be keeping the great bike infrastructure that we do have. So maintaining the paths and the roads, and trying to just keep that status quo to keep the people that are commuting safe and satisfied in terms of participating in the bike community. I think there are also opportunities that in terms of that budget spend that are non-physical ways, potentially low-cost solutions around community awareness and promotion. That could be ways to maximize the budget that is potentially different than building more paths or other physical infrastructure builds. And I think the effort towards grants and partnerships in my world, where we do lots of partnerships with technology companies and other types of institutions and organizations, I think that exploring partnerships and match funding and things like that could be a great way to potentially increase the budget and other things. And then last thing I kind of stumbled across and just thinking about this was that there's a lot of wealthy people that like bikes and like expensive bikes, and especially in this area. And so I think that there's plenty of people that are willing to contribute and potentially help in this space. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you. Councilmember Chahal.
Thank you for applying, Mr. Clark. What do you think of shared mobility programs in Santa Clara, like bikes and scooters?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's, these programs, when they come to different cities, I know over the past few years, my parents live in Salt Lake City. That has kind of come and gone, these different types of scooter and bike programs. And I think it does provide a lot of flexibility for either the last mile, or some people even use them for longer commutes, just because they might not be able to afford a bike, or they don't want to have to deal with, again, locking it or storing it. So it's really just convenience, I think, is the biggest benefit. People that otherwise would not be able to get to work or school or get groceries. And I think there's a sort of knock-on effect as well of more people seeing riding bikes, puts that kind of in the public discourse and in the public consciousness, where they see there's this trickle-down effect of more people are riding scooters and bikes. They're out there. Hopefully those people are riding safe, and they're riding where they're supposed to be, which could potentially lead to more bike lanes being put in and laws for cyclists becoming more prevalent. So I think some of the hard things with these programs are, can you give me 1 second, please? No, can you give me 1 second, please? I'll come in and I'll turn your show on. Okay, I apologize.
No problem.
Can you give me 1 second, please? I'll come in there in just a couple minutes. Okay, great. We've hit the limit on them by themselves. My wife works in the hospital as a nurse anesthetist, so she's working overnight tonight. So I'm on kid duty. So
No
I'll
problem.
try to wrap this up quickly. So in terms of some of the challenges, I think, to these programs, in my mind, I think are sustainability and safety. Obviously, most of the people that I think are using these types of shared modes of transportation are not wearing helmets. They're oftentimes not very comfortable riding either in traffic or in city environments where they're most beneficial. So I think safety, I'm a huge advocate, obviously having had an injury or a major crash, I'm a huge advocate of helmets. I think that there's really no exception for, times when you shouldn't have to wear a helmet. So I think, those are some of the challenges in addition to the safety. I mentioned sustainability. So I think, the more lift that it is to maintain and to gather and to redistribute these scooters and these bikes, I think some of the bike ones are a little bit easier because they most of the time have central locations for docking and charging and things like that. And those are typically well planned out and have good strategies in terms of usability. But some of the other ones, like scooters being left everywhere, can again kind of create bad energy, I think, just around the usability and the sustainability of those programs long term. And then just more of an anecdotal example, my wife, who again works in the hospital, has seen over the course of her career several, this is back to the safety example, several hospitalizations from, again, head injuries, other broken limbs, just from irresponsible use of those types of modes of transportation. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Watanabe?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for applying, Clark. It looks like you just had one of that BBC moment where the kids walked in on the dad who was doing an interview. A memorable interview. So the question I have for you is, what do you think of implementing Vision Zero program in the city of Santa Clara?
Yeah, I thought about this a little bit, and again, well, I think that is, the overarching goal, and that's a great a number, obviously, to shoot for. Obviously, there are, many challenges to that. I was really blown away when I read some of the statistics in terms of the number of traffic accidents. Those could relate in fatalities or major injuries or even minor injuries. But, in 2016, that was upwards of 33,000. And, I think of those, about 400 are fatalities. And to think that every day there's at least one person in our community, whether that's on a bike, a pedestrian, or in a vehicle that is, going to die that day because of, someone who's texting or driving, or somebody who's driving too fast, or because of, maybe not safe ways to commute places. I think that's a scary thing to think about. I ride my bike, my e-bike with my kids to school, and luckily we don't have to cross over places like Lawrence Expressway or things like that. We're just down the street from the school. But I think, I think personally about people, being able to get where they need to go safely. And that's kind of the overarching message. And the more education we can do to promote and educate people on where they can walk and bike safely, I think, it will have a measurable effect on the number of injuries and deaths. I am one of those statistics of having had a major injury. Luckily, I only got to about 20 stitches in my chin, and I was riding kind of the next day because I didn't really have any PTSD because I was knocked out. But so anything we can do to reduce that number, ultimately, obviously, zero would be very, very difficult to achieve. But I think shooting towards that number and having that in the public discourse and what people are trying to achieve is a great thing. Obviously, there are sort of low-hanging fruit that are going to be mentioned a lot, like lowering speed limits and automated speed enforcement. The number one cause of crashes is typically unsafe speed. So I think that any of those legislation changes, especially around here where we have so many expressways kind of cutting through, whether that's east to west or otherwise, I think that's definitely a noble and really efficient way to potentially implement Vision Zero.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Park for the last question.
Thank you very much, Clark, for applying. How would you categorize and address challenges for elderly, expectant mothers, toddlers, and others who may not easily walk or bicycle to destinations like, but not limited to, grocery stores, schools, and restaurants?
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard this question or read this question, I kind of thought of what are the main challenges? Let's try to categorize them for these groups to get to kind of these very essential places where we're trying to go, whether it's a child going to school or whether it's a mother trying to go to the grocery store. I think one of the biggest challenges in terms of categories is obviously cost. Most people that can't afford it, if you don't have a car and maybe you're not comfortable riding a bike or you don't have a bike, maybe you're even just visiting, obviously ride sharing, right? But as we know, that's not really a sustainable long-term solution for a lot of people, especially if it's a part of their everyday life. No one's going to, take an Uber every day so that they can drop their kid off at school. They're going to find maybe a bus. They're going to find maybe a carpool program or other things. So I think cost is still a large barrier for a number of these groups. And I think basically these what the problem that this is creating for these groups is really transportation poverty. It's kind of a term I stumbled across when I was doing a little bit of research, but I think that these groups typically also align with lower income communities that may not have access, even again to the cost comment that I made earlier. That those things I think kind of go hand in hand. One thing that I think for maybe that's not considered in terms of categorically the challenges for toddlers or families is commute time. Obviously, with the number of people we have here, commute times to go 2 miles, 3 miles can be significant at peak hours, and the other ones are safety. So if families don't feel like they can either walk with their kids safely because they have to cross major roads or it takes too much time, they might not be able to bike, and then typically they have to drive, so that would be at high traffic times. I also was able to look up a little bit of information from a survey I found, the East San Jose Community-Based Transportation Survey. And while it didn't have a significant number of respondents, I think it was less than 500, I was interested to see that over 20% of the respondents had some sort of disability. So I think that that's also another potential group here that, whether it's, getting to the bus on time or curbs and ramps and other things, people that have those disabilities, I think are significantly affected by those things. And also, another category, my obviously I have two young children and my wife works. And I think, women in general, not just expectant mothers, but they're statistically more vulnerable, especially in these lower income communities. because not only do they take care of the household, but a lot of them have potentially a part-time job or full-time job. So that's essentially double employment. So I think that thinking of specific needs for those types of groups, would be really beneficial. And some of the solutions that again came from the responses in this survey are not news to anybody, but include more curb ramps, keeping the sidewalks and pathways more clear, extended bus hours or increased service, all of the traffic modifications such as traffic calming, reduced speed limits. Also on the elderly topic, in terms of some of those challenges, there was also a little bit of confusion about which programs were available and how much they cost. And so I think, again, promotion of these types of programs to the right groups with the right messaging would go a long way.
All right, thank you for that. So now it's time for your up to 1 minute closing statement.
Great. I'm, just want to say that I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm very new to this. I don't have 20, 30 years of experience working in this space, but I lived in Santa Clara for about the past decade, and I would say that Santa Clara has really become my home. It's really the only home I've known since my childhood home. And I think that I have a lot of knowledge and great perspective to share. Maybe that's different than the traditional applicants, but I think I have a very unique skill set. I've written an extensive amount, and I really just am passionate about encouraging other people to ride their bikes, whether that's commuting or recreation. I'm passionate about getting more people on the bike because it's made such a big impact in my life, and I would love to have other people enjoy the fun and the energy that comes from being a part of the cycling and the bike community.
Thank you very much, Clark, and you're in luck. We're going to make our decisions right now. There'll be no waiting. So please stay with us, and we'll be making a decision right now. And thank you very much for applying and for your very complete answers. We appreciate it. So, City Clerk, we have 3 positions to fill, 4 positions to fill.
We have 3 full terms.
3 full-time and 1 part-time,
Correct.
which is the part-time position is the longer position. You're filling a part-time slot, and then you're eligible for 2 more
Full terms.
Full terms.
That's correct. So
So I think the council would agree that all of our applicants were excellent. So we have 5 applicants. I would suggest that once we select the top 4, that whoever is the 5th applicant be put on the eligibility list, if the council agrees, because everyone was excellent. I would suggest now that we each pick 4, and then we'll take a 5-10 minute break to give you time to figure it out. Right? So we won't put you on the spot right now.
did you want to do what you did previous with the highest vote getter being?
The highest vote getter would
Partial.
get the top spot, which is the shorter term plus 2 full terms. And then the next 3 would get the regular term spots. And then the 5th person would be the eligibility list, which means if anyone quits or
Resigned.
leaves for any reason whatsoever, you wouldn't have to come back to the council. You'd automatically be placed on that committee.
Sure, we would reach out to them, find out
We
if
would
there's
reach
still an
out to make
interest.
sure that you were still interested.
Correct.
So-
And that would be only if a resignation occurred between now and 6 months.
It's 6 months, okay. Should make it longer. All right, so
Okay.
when you're ready.
Council, Vice Mayor Park, were you raising your hand?
No, I shouldn't have my hand up.
Okay, so we'll begin then with Councilmember Becker for your top 4.
Sure, thank you. And again, great applicants. Thank you for applying. So the first one is Betsy. Second will be Clark. Third will be James. And lastly, Ashish.
Thank you. Councilmember Hardy.
Very similar. Betsy, Clark, Jim, and Anish.
Ashish? Thank you. Councilmember Jane?
Thank you, Nora. Betsy, Ken, James, and Clark.
Okay. Mayor Gilmore?
Ashish, Betsy, James, and Clark.
Councilmember Shahal?
Ashish, Betsy, James, and Clark.
Councilmember Watanabe?
Yes, this was very hard. I have James, Clark, Ashish, and Betsy.
And Vice Mayor Park?
I'm going to go with Ashish, Ken, Betsy, and Clark.
Okay, 5 to 7 minute break.
Thank you.
commission applicants were extremely off schedule. We're getting there, though. Thank you for your patience. Okay, we're going to start again. City Clerk, and here comes Michelle. Okay, City Clerk.
So we have a tie for the partial term between Betsy and Clark. Both received 7 votes each. So if you'd like to revote.
One vote for either Betsy or Clark.
Oh.
There's no saying. So, City Clerk?
Yeah, I can't raise my hand yet because I'm not joined, but I'd like to have a comment.
If you want to find out what the question is. So City Clerk, you're asking us to,
This one, you need to break the tie if you were.
so
Yeah,
one
but
vote
I have a
each.
comment.
Excuse me, you,
I am wondering if I am eligible for the partial term,
oh,
because I was already on the BPAC.
I think you are.
So.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Do you want to vote on the,
On partial term, or,
okay, so
so you would be your top.
your top person. All right, are you going to start down the
Yes.
line, or, okay.
Okay. Councilmember Becker? This is between Betsy and Clark.
Betsy.
Councilmember Hardy?
Betsy.
Councilmember Jane?
Betsy.
Mayor Gilmore?
Clark,
Councilmember Shahal?
Betsy.
Councilmember Watanabe?
Clark.
Vice Mayor Park?
Betsy.
may I have a motion for Betsy for the partial term?
So moved.
So, Madam Mayor, I need you to declare the vacancy because this resignation came in just a few days ago.
A motion to declare the vacancy?
So moved.
Can we declare a vacancy and appoint at the same
Yes,
time?
yes.
Declare a vacancy and appoint Betsy to the partial term.
I make a motion to declare vacancy and appoint Betsy at the same time.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Chahal, second by Councilmember Becker.
Just give me a second here. Shahal and Becker.
Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously. All right, for the next 3, 2, 3, 3.
So the last person that, did you want to,
So the next 3 in line are, can you tell us who they are?
yes, that would be Ashish
For the full terms.
for the full
Ashish?
term, Ashish, James, and Clark.
So may I have a motion to appoint Ashish, James, and Clark to a full terms ending June 30th, 2027 on the BPAC?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Park, second by Councilmember Chahal. Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously. May I have a motion to appoint Ken Kratz to the eligibility list?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Vice Mayor Park, second by Councilmember Jane to move Ken to the eligibility list. Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously. So congratulations to all our appointees and Ken for the eligibility list. Wow, okay. That was an interesting one. Very qualified applicants. We appreciate everyone who applied. All right, next, we have interviews and actions to appoint one applicant to the Civil Service Commission to serve one partial term ending June 30th, 2025, and two applicants to full terms, each ending June 30th, 2027. So we have 3 positions available and 4 applicants, correct?
That's correct. So this one is a total of 3 with 4 applicants.
And the partial position would be for the longest term.
That's correct.
You're saying 4 because someone dropped out.
Yes, we had the number 5 applicant here, Mr. Gurdeep Sodai. He withdrew this morning.
Okay, City Clerk, when you're ready, call the
your
first applicant.
Your first applicant is Ron Billingsley, and he is online.
Ron? All right, Ron, can you hear us? Ron? Is he unmuted?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Hi, Ron, welcome.
Success.
Thank you for your patience. Well, I apologize, we're running way off schedule.
No problem.
So when you're ready, Ron, you can give us your up to 3-minute introduction.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Council and Mayor Gilmore. My name is Ron Billingsley. I'm a lifelong Santa Claran, born at O'Connor's, raised up on Bellamy Street. I attended Washington Elementary, William A. Wilson Junior High, and Santa Clara High. Well, my last year was attended at Lynbrooks, where I graduated from. I started working for the city of Santa Clara back in 1981 as a temporary employee with the city of Santa Clara during one of its annual spring cleanups. Approximately almost 1 year later to the date, I was hired permanently in the Public Works Street Department, which I retired from in December of 2017, so over 35 years of service within the city of Santa Clara. I'm a family man. I've been married to my wife for 31 years. We've raised 4 healthy and happy children, which have all gone on to be successful. And to their success and luck, they're all homeowners within the Bay Area here, which is no easy feat. And currently we have 4 grandkids. I retired in December of 2017. As I mentioned, I did some traveling. Now I feel it's time to give a little back to my community. So that is why I took the time to apply for this position as an introduction into the city's commissions.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your service to Santa Clara. We appreciate it. So we're going to start with our questions. The first is going to be from Councilmember Becker.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ron, for applying. So my first question for you is, do you have any thoughts about the high vacancy rate of our staff?
Yeah, I do. I think the high vacancy rate, I believe, in whole has affected the overall health of the city of Santa Clara, and which has suffered within the community and to its staff. The once beautiful city has fallen to the effects of blight, graffiti, illegal signage, 3 feet tall weeds in the medium, rough roads. At one time, Santa Clara was a valedictorian in the Bay Area for its roadways, which was no easy feat on itself. I think it's also suffered within City Hall with customer service, restricted hours to the public due to low staff. And some of its centers have closed or temporarily shut down. I'm sure it's felt also in public safety. Luckily, and thank God, I've never had to experience the shortfall there. But I'm sure some people have, which we definitely need to improve on. And
Go ahead, you can finish.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead. Did you have more to say? Go ahead, please.
One quick line. Now, my intuition is that I'm sure it's affected the morale in the workforce, where they're seeing no relief with the hiring of new staff to help with the burden of the heavy workload.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron. Councilmember Hardy?
Yes, thank you, Ron. Do you have any thoughts about why it takes so long to hire someone in Santa Clara after a position has been approved and budgeted?
Yes, first off, I think you have to go back to question one with the short staff, which causes slower movement within the city through being in HR, the hiring process. If they're short staffed, it's going to create a slow pace. Finding qualified candidates to apply and hire for open positions can be a challenge in the Bay Area. We need to do some proper publication of available positions to hire, maybe even an outside private hiring practice, or even publicizing in our community colleges for people wanting to go from the two-year program into a city position. We need to have competitive wages to bring in more applicants along with benefits. And last, you have to have department heads. Sometimes the department head doesn't push the process along to help HR, so sometimes that can be a challenge.
Thank you. Councilmember Jane?
Thank you, Ron. Do you have any suggestions? I think you've already provided a few. How to improve recruitment of new employees?
Yes, I think first off, we need to do a salary and benefit comparison to surrounding Bay Area cities to be able to compete. I think Santa Clara might have slipped a little in that area. Better job announcements, as I mentioned earlier, advertising at our community colleges, private enterprise advertisement, shorten the hiring process. Maybe when an applicant applies for a position, there are set dates on the timeline, for the interview, for the acceptance of the applicant, for the interview process and the hiring process, with a set deadline instead of just dragging along sometimes. Maybe a hiring bonus for certain positions, such as in public safety, so we can bring in some of the more skilled and talented workforce in that area. 4-day work weeks, I'm sure that'll get the attention of some people. We also need to advertise that we promote from within to show advancement. If you have it publicized that there is a ladder that you can proceed through, I'm sure that sometimes offers more attention to people. Increase education through stipends and so on.
Thank you. Ron, are you aware, as a civil service commissioner, you would need to file a Form 700 and disclose where your income comes from? And are you willing to fulfill this requirement?
Thank you for clarifying that one. As I read it on my email, it said I was responsible for filing 700 forms.
It's called a Form 700.
Yeah. So, no, I have no problem with filing where my income comes from to a certain point. I mean, if I sell something on social media or something, I don't think I would need to file that. But my, base income, where it comes from, would that also be like including my spouse's income or just mine?
It would be both, to show any potential conflicts of interest in your decision making.
Sure, no, there's no problem with that. I could disclose my income.
All right, very good. Well, thank you. Now it's time for your up to 1 minute closing statement.
First off, I would just like to thank the council and yourself, Mayor, for giving me the time to interview and apply for this position. This is a new field for me. I've been retired now for a little over 5 years, and I just thought maybe it's time to give back a little more to my community. I was going to ask that I get considered for the 1-year position, but after watching your earlier candidates, I see the one-year position is actually the longer position. So
Correct.
anyway, I thrown my hat in, and I thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for applying. We appreciate that. And if you want to just continue watching us after our interviews, we're interviewing 3 more applicants, and we're going to be making a decision this evening. So thanks again for applying.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, City Clerk?
Okay, our next applicant is Wesley Dudzinski, and he is here in person.
Oh, very good. Welcome. Welcome, Wesley.
Mayor, council members.
Can you speak, right in the microphone so everyone can hear you at home?
Okay, I will.
So welcome. We're ready for your up to 3-minute introduction.
I've been a resident of Santa Clara since 1988. I became one by buying condominium in Santa Clara at Woodsboro Homes Association, where I lived ever since. I worked in Silicon Valley for all these years, and last year, in July, I retired, so now I have more time, and I'm willing to dedicate some of the time to serve on your commission, if appointed.
All right. Very good. We are going to start our questioning with Councilmember Chahal.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for applying. Do you have any thoughts about the high vacancy rates in the staff of City of Santa Clara?
About?
High vacancy rate in the city staff.
City staff, employees. Well, I was not aware that there is high rate of vacancies, so no, I have nothing to add.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Watanabe?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for applying, sir. Do you have any thoughts about why it takes so long to hire someone in Santa Clara after a position has been approved and budgeted?
I do, and that's based on my personal experience, not with City of Santa Clara. Never worked for City of Santa Clara. However, I worked for County of Santa Clara, specifically for Assessor's Office. I was not the full-time employee. I was a contractor through employment agency. However, from the date of my interview to my first day of a job, 6 weeks elapsed, which I consider excessive. It was very long. And one of the items, well, there was a lot of paperwork to fill, but one of the items that I had to fill, I remember very well because that was the last item, actually. Fingerprinting, I think it was done on Monday. And such a simple task as fingerprinting caused that I started work on following Monday, meaning simple fingerprinting task added 1 week to my start date, which is probably not the best practice, and perhaps it can be shortened and compressed, and maybe the other steps of the hiring process could be also speed up, and then we would have a little faster hiring process.
All right, very good. Thank you. Vice Mayor Park?
Thank you very much, sir, for applying. Do you have any suggestions to improve recruitment of new employees?
No.
All right.
Thank you very much for that.
We're going to make up time here.
Happy to comply.
Thank you. Councilmember Becker.
Yes, thank you for applying, Wesley. So my question for you is, are you aware as a civil service commissioner that you would need to file Form 700 and disclose where your income comes from? Are you willing to fulfill this requirement?
Well, I'm happy that you clarified the typo because I came here assuming that I will have to file 700 forms.
I looked at that.
Not one form, so it is a relief that this is just one form. And yes, I have no problem. I am willing to disclose whatever that form asks me for.
Awesome. We wouldn't give you 700 forms.
It might feel like 700 forms when you're filling it out, but maybe not. All right, well, we're at the point now to hear you for your up to 1 minute closing statement. You might have some time credit, though, so I don't know.
No, it will be probably shorter than 1 minute.
Okay.
Until now, I didn't participate really in civic activities in the city, with one exception. I voted in every election. So in the last election, I did or did not vote for each and every one of you. But now I'm retired. I have more time, and I think I don't have any specific knowledge or specific skills to be on this particular commission. However, I'm willing to learn, and I think I'm capable to learn that, and I have a time and willingness. So I will be happy to provide some service for you.
Well, thank you very much for applying and trying to be involved in your community. We really appreciate that. We need volunteers everywhere in Santa Clara. So thank you very much. You're welcome to stay, and very soon we'll be making our decision. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor and Council, we have Arti Purohit is here in person.
You're in person. Wonderful. Welcome. I think you may have heard some of the previous speakers, so you have up to 3 minutes to tell us about yourself. Welcome.
Hello, Mayor. Hello, everybody. My name is Arti Purohit. Arti, just meaning of my name, it's meaning worship to God with light or candle, just to be clear. I've been living in Santa Clara County for past 20 years, and especially to Santa Clara for past 4 years. We are a family of 4 with my husband and 2 kids. We both, my husband and I, we work in software industry. I've been working in Fortune 100 companies for past 15 years. Currently, I'm working at Okta as a principal program manager. My day-to-day job duties include cross-functional coordination, enabling people, unblocking the team members, project planning, time management, resource management. And I definitely want to correlate some of it and bring some opportunities here to help serve my community. And I saw this position through my email, and I looked at it, and it was pretty clear how to apply, and I was like, this is interesting. I wasn't aware there are such things that happen, so I wanted to be part of the community, and here I am with all of you talking, and very excited. To give a little bit more background on how I relate to the community services, back in my school and colleges, I was part of student council and student committee organizations, serving as a vice president capacity, which is where I learned how just not being into academic or sports or extracurricular activity, you can also help bring those skills to serving people and make a difference. So that was somewhere there always, and then you get busy into your career and all the family thing, and finally I have some opportunity. My daughter is in 12th grade, so my son is in 5th grade, so I have a little bit time now. They are a little bit on their own, not fully. So, and I started looking into these things, and I found it interesting, so I came here and want to talk more about what we have here.
Just a little note, the kids are never fully on their own.
I agree.
Ever.
I agree. Even they are 30 or 40 still.
Especially Indian parents.
22, 23,
yes,
they're still
plus
not
one on
their
that. It is. Yeah, so that is pretty much, I had to say anything else I should cover. My education, my education has been from India. I have done master's in bioinformatics with MBA, both from India. I also have my certifications in computer science background. Other than that, project management pretty much is what I have been doing.
Well, thank you very much. We do have some questions for you, which I'm sure you received ahead of time, but we're going to start with Councilmember Hardy.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you for applying, too. Do
Hi,
you
Karen.
have any thoughts about the high vacancy rate for our staff?
Yes, some of it, like myself. I think many people, lack of awareness is one of the things I think could be a reason. People don't get to know that these things exist, just like me. So I think even we have, when I apply to jobs, they are generally coming via multiple social, like LinkedIn or other job positioning. I don't know if we do that here. So the publicity could be, and communication could be one of the things. I also think cost of living has been high in Bay Area, so people are moving out. So could be the reason that we, in general, have less people as compared to before, and especially COVID hitting us, people moving out, that may have an impact on the vacancies, I think. So that we may improve things around there, which is why when things even are getting budgeted and approved, not getting enough traction. It does, I do understand there is another follow-up question, which I read from the email, which is connected to this question about, which I would like to address when somebody asks, but that also is connected with basically longer hiring processes also included as part of low vacancy rate anywhere, not just here. If we are taking longer time to, from the point an applicant is applying versus they're fully hired and their first day of onboarding, if it's taking longer, like 60 days and above, generally it will backfire us. So yeah, those are some of the reasons I think could be giving us higher vacancy rate here.
Thank you. You seem to already answer the next question, but we're going to ask it anyway in case you think of something else. Councilmember Jain.
Yeah, thank you, Arti. And I know you talked about this. Do you have any idea why it takes so long to hire people in Santa Clara after the position's already been approved and budgeted?
I think the next question was about how do you improve, or you have thoughts about, because that question is what Karen asked. Maybe I could be wrong.
Oh.
She asked the question about the high vacancy rate.
Okay.
So this question is, why do you think it takes a long time to hire someone after it's been approved and budgeted?
I see, yeah, and that's how I said, okay, longer hiring time process, yes. Couple of things, I think the reason, including the longer hiring process and timeline, it could be low salary and compensation package. It could be one of the thing included here as compared to rest. We compare ourselves. We need to be competitive when we are offering better. When we are trying to bring better candidates, and if we are not competitive in that, then we are going to not see the pool of candidate or the kind of candidate we want to see. Other thing is we should be, I am actually new here as well myself, so I don't know how much kind of career promotion and growth within the, like how you can help more. Once, let's say any candidate they join, once they try to help and go more beyond than what they can offer, do we offer those kind of career and growth opportunity that could, I don't know if we have those plans here as well. We have seen those things in the places that I work, that even the career growth within the place is there. It's not just the point where you started and 2 years you finish it and you go out. So if that's not there, better candidate won't be attracted that much, so position will be filled. People want to see end-to-end, but keeping in mind this is a service community, so it's more for we serving the people, not the office serving us. So this is something we should be keeping in mind. Yeah.
You might be able to add on to that. Do you have any suggestions to improve recruitment of new employees?
Yes, some of the things we could do is, I don't know how we track the overall the hiring process to the exiting process when the candidate leave, and at which point in time we start seeing those decisions on the candidate. So maybe it's introducing more of a bit of technology, starting some KPIs and metrics and indicator on how we are doing on volume of applicants versus accepting the vacancy versus filling it, and versus what time they are resigning versus how long they are fully actually committing to the full job cycle, and what improvements they made. If we have those tracking metrics, that would help us understand the situation better, and based on that data information, we can make more decisions. We can also bring better hiring or create hiring plan within HR or within our community and council chambers about where we are not bringing the positions or the areas where we should be helping our people and there are no positions, or better candidates can be brought in at a faster rate, how many part-time positions we need versus how many full-time, if people are more interested in part-time, or I think part-time is what you're saying. So if that is what people more want and willing to serve, then maybe we should go with that. So based on if we want to bring ourselves up to speed, we need to go with the winds that we are sailing in.
Thank you, Artie. Councilmember Chahal.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for applying, Arti. So are you aware that as a not as a planning commissioner, civil service commissioner, you will have to fill up Form 700 to declare your income sources? And are you willing to do that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so now we're at the point where you can give us up to your 1-minute closing statement.
Oh, yeah. Well, I said pretty much, I said a lot of it, I'm sorry. But pretty much to mention that this is something I'm very interested and willing and passionate about. I'm new to this area, but some of the skills I can definitely help and serve my community with, and I would love to do that. So I would like to see and looking forward to what I can learn here and offer to my community and people.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your interview and for applying. We appreciate it. If you want to stay with us, we're going to be making a decision very soon. Thank you. All right, City Clerk.
So, Madam Mayor and Council, we've received a message from our last applicant, and unfortunately, she had an emergency to attend to, so she has withdrawn from the process. Therefore, you have 3 applicants before you to make that decision. How would the council like to proceed? Would you like to just vote for your top?
Maybe the top applicant for the longer position.
And then the other 2 would.
And the other 2 would be the
full
other
terms.
position. All right, so let's start with the top applicant
Okay.
for
Councilmember
the
Becker?
partial term, which includes 2 full terms.
So my top.
So it's not an automatic, I mean,
It's not automatic, as we have learned. Yes, it's not automatic.
They would have to.
There would be the potential for 2 additional terms.
Correct.
Okay. So my top candidate will be Wesley, followed by.
No,
Oh, no,
just
we don't
one.
go. Just one. Sorry.
Councilmember Hardy?
Wesley?
This is for the top candidate? Okay.
Ron,
Artie?
Councilmember Shahal?
Arti?
Councilmember Watanabe?
RT.
Vice Mayor Park?
Wesley.
Okay, so there's a tie between Wesley and RT. 3-3.
Okay, so we're going to go one more time to make your top choice for the top candidate between Wesley and RT.
Do I start?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was just making sure. Okay, Wesley.
Wesley?
Councilmember Jane?
Wesley,
Mayor Gilmer?
RT.
Arti?
Watanabe?
RT.
Vice Mayor Park?
Could I please have a motion to appoint Wesley for the partial term ending June 30th, 2025? So we have a motion. Who made the motion? Councilmember Becker, second by Councilmember Hardy.
Yes, just give me a quick second here.
Just a second. Please register your votes. Did everybody register their vote? And that passes unanimously. Congratulations, Wesley. And then may I have a motion for Ron and Artie
All motion?
to have, to be awarded a full term ending June 30th, 2027? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I accidentally included it in the first one.
What's that?
I included it in the first one. Sorry about that.
Okay, so did you have the motion now?
Did.
The full term, ending June 30th, 2027.
Councilmember Shahal.
Ron and Artie.
Beck? Beck. You were the seconder? Madam Mayor, who did you hear, who
I don't
made the
know.
motion?
Councilmember Chahal.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. And second by Councilmember Becker.
I don't know. You made the motion or you seconded.
This is the other way, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It don't matter. Tomato, tomato.
Okay. We've got it.
Please register your votes. And that passes unanimously. Congratulations, Ron and Artie. Yeah, thank you. So the city clerk's office will contact all of you? Is that how it works to swear you in and to give you further instructions? But congratulations and thank you all for applying. Thank you. All right, so we're moving on now. First of all, I want to thank our staff for all of this. This is all hard work that you do to put this all together and to organize everything for us. We really appreciate everything that you've done. Thank you to the city clerk's office. All right, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion?
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously, and this meeting is adjourned.
We'll be back tomorrow.